Science fiction has given us legendary blockbusters, but some of the best films in the genre slipped through the cracks. Too weird, too small, or just too far ahead of their time, these movies didn't get the love they deserved. But that doesn't mean they're forgettable. Quite the opposite. Which sci-fi flicks hid in plain sight, waiting to blow your mind? Buckle up, because some of these picks will change how you look at the genre forever. Coherence 2013. What happens when reality itself decides to glitch during your dinner party? That's the starting point for Coherence, one of the most unsettling low-budget sci-fi thrillers you'll ever see. 8 friends gather for what seems like a normal evening, but after a comet passes overhead, things spiral into chaos. Suddenly, doors lead to impossible places. People begin questioning their own identities, and paranoia becomes the new dinner guest. Director James Ward Byrkit pulled off something astonishing here. Shot mostly in his own house with minimal crew and improvised dialogue, the film uses its tiny budget as an advantage. Instead of flashy effects, Coherence traps you inside the characters' heads, forcing you to feel the confusion and terror right along with them. The comet isn't just a sci-fi device, it's a narrative wrecking ball that smashes the rules of space and time. What makes Coherence unforgettable is how it blends cosmic-scale concepts with raw human tension. Friendships dissolve, relationships crack open, and nobody knows which version of reality they're standing in. It's like a Twilight Zone episode, stretched to feature length and injected with pure dread. For those who crave sci-fi that makes your brain itch, this film delivers. You don't get easy answers, and that's the point. Coherence proves you don't need a spaceship or a CGI monster to mess with your head. Just the right idea, the right moment, and the courage to ask, what if reality has more than one face? Under the Skin 2013. Imagine Scarlett Johansson driving around in a van, but she's not who you think she is. In Under the Skin, she plays an alien disguised as a woman, prowling the streets of Scotland in search of prey. But the brilliance of the film isn't in what she does, it's in how it makes you feel while watching. Cold, hypnotic, and disturbing, this isn't a creature feature, it's an existential trap. Director Jonathan Glazer uses minimal dialogue, stark visuals, and a haunting electronic score to create a mood that lingers long after the credits roll. Instead of Hollywood spectacle, you get surreal imagery. Empty landscapes, inky black voids, and moments that feel more like nightmares than scenes. The men she encounters vanish into that void, their humanity dissolved without explanation. It's horrifying, not because of gore, but because of how alien it all feels. Johansson delivers a performance like nothing else in her career. Detached, robotic, yet oddly vulnerable. As her character begins to question her role, the film shifts. It's no longer just about an alien observing humans. It's about the fragile line between predator and prey, outsider and insider, identity and disguise. On release, Under the Skin confused audiences. Some called it slow, others called it pretentious. But today, it's recognized as a bold masterpiece of modern science fiction. It doesn't hand you answers. It doesn't want to. It wants you to sit in discomfort and ask yourself what makes us human in the first place. If you're willing to let it get under your skin, it's one of the most unforgettable experiences in the genre. Dark City, 1998. Before The Matrix blew audiences away, there was Dark City, and in some ways it asked even deeper questions about reality, memory, and control. The story follows John Murdoch, a man who wakes up accused of murder with no memory of his past. But his personal mystery is only the beginning. The entire city around him isn't real. It's being manipulated by sinister beings called the Strangers. Director Alex Proyas crafted a world that feels like a noir fever dream mixed with surreal sci-fi. The city has no daylight. Time is controlled like a light switch. Buildings reshape themselves at will. And the Strangers, pale and eerie, float through the shadows like puppeteers of reality. Every detail feeds into the atmosphere. Retro cars, smoky alleys, crooked architecture. It feels like stepping into a nightmare you can't wake from. The themes hit hard. Who are we without our memories? If reality can be rewritten, what does identity even mean? These aren't just background questions, they drive every twist of the plot. The visuals reinforce it, bending logic and physics while keeping you locked inside the claustrophobic dreamscape. When Dark City hit theaters, audiences didn't know what to make of it. Overshadowed by bigger releases, it never found mainstream success. But over time, it's earned recognition as one of the smartest, most atmospheric sci-fi films of the 90s. Think of it as a hidden sibling to The Matrix, but darker, stranger, and far more unsettling. If you like your sci-fi wrapped in shadows with a side of paranoia, Dark City isn't just underrated, it's essential. Sunshine 2007. The sun is dying. Humanity's only chance of survival is to reignite it with a massive nuclear payload. That's the setup for Sunshine, and it's as intense as it sounds. Directed by Danny Boyle, this film locks a crew of astronauts inside a ship with one impossible mission: save the world or watch it burn. What makes Sunshine so gripping isn't just the premise, it's the execution. The film balances breathtaking cosmic visuals with tight, claustrophobic drama. The sun isn't just a backdrop, it's a constant, overwhelming presence, threatening to blind, burn, or consume. The visuals capture both its beauty and its terror. You can almost feel the heat bleeding off the screen. But beneath the spectacle, Sunshine is about people. Tensions mount as the crew deals with impossible decisions. Do they risk everything to answer a distress call? Do they sacrifice individuals for the survival of humanity? Every choice chips away at their sanity, and when things start going wrong, as they always do in space, the line between human resilience and collapse blurs fast. Cillian Murphy leads a strong ensemble cast, and each character feels like more than just cannon fodder. The writing forces you to care about them, which makes the tension unbearable when disaster strikes. At release, Sunshine didn't set the box office on fire, but it's one of the most visually stunning and emotionally powerful space thrillers of the last 20 years. It deserves to stand beside the giants of the genre. For those who missed it, consider this your wake-up call. Sunshine isn't just underrated, it's unmissable. Gattaca, 1997. What if your entire future was written in your DNA? That's the chilling premise of Gattaca, a film that envisions a world where genetic engineering decides everything: status, career, even who gets to dream. Ethan Hawke stars as Vincent Freeman, a man born the old-fashioned way in a society that only values engineered perfection. To chase his goal of becoming an astronaut, he must literally rewrite his identity. The brilliance of Gattaca lies in its style and its substance. Director Andrew Niccol creates a retro-futuristic world of symmetry, minimalism, and elegance. Everything is clean, cold, and controlled, a reflection of a society obsessed with perfection. But beneath the sleek surfaces is a very human story about ambition, discrimination, and resilience. Hawke delivers a heartfelt performance, while Jude Law plays Jerome, the genetically perfect man who lends Vincent his identity. Their dynamic is both tragic and inspiring, highlighting how both privilege and limitation can become prisons. Meanwhile, Uma Thurman adds another layer of intrigue, embodying the social divide of this engineered future. At its core, Gattaca is a film about defiance. It's about refusing to let labels define your worth. The themes are timeless, but in today's world of genetic testing and designer medicine, it feels even more relevant than when it was released. Critics admired it, but audiences stayed away. The film barely made its budget back. Yet over time, it's gained cult status, recognized as one of the most thought-provoking sci-fi films of the 90s. If you want sci-fi that's sleek, emotional, and eerily prophetic, Gattaca is the one that slipped past too many people. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. When you cast David Bowie as an alien, you don't just get a performance, you get a cinematic event. The Man Who Fell to Earth is a haunting, surreal story about an extraterrestrial who comes to Earth searching for water to save his dying planet. Instead, he becomes entangled in human greed, corruption, and his own isolation. What begins as, a story of survival spirals into a slow-burn tragedy that feels more human than alien. Director Nicholas Roeg crafted the film with his signature fragmented editing and dreamlike imagery, creating a mood that's as disorienting as Bowie's otherworldly presence. The alien character, Thomas Jerome Newton, initially seems like a genius savior, inventing new technologies to amass wealth and build a way home. But the more he engages with human society, the more broken he becomes. Alcohol, power, and betrayal tear down his mission until he's trapped, alone, alienated, and forgotten. On release, the film baffled audiences. Too strange to be mainstream, too slow for those expecting spectacle, It faded into cult status, but over time, it's been reassessed as one of the most daring sci-fi films of the 1970s. Bowie doesn't just act. He embodies the outsider, both literally as an alien and figuratively as a rock star who never fit neatly into the human box. The Man Who Fell to Earth isn't about explosions or battles. It's about the quiet destruction of hope, the weight of being different, and the crushing power of human flaws. If you're looking for a sci-fi film that doesn't just tell a story but makes you feel like you're drifting in another world, this one is essential. A Scanner Darkly, 2006. Addiction, paranoia, and surveillance collide in A Scanner Darkly, Richard Linklater's trippy adaptation of Philip K. Dick's novel. Keanu Reeves plays Bob Arctor, an undercover agent losing himself to both the dangerous drug substance D and the fractured identities of his double life. To make it even stranger, the film is rotoscoped, every frame animated over live-action footage, giving it a hallucinatory, dreamlike feel. That visual style divided audiences, but it's not a gimmick. The rotoscoping makes reality slippery, blurring the line between what's real and what's imagined, mirroring Bob's unraveling mind. Surrounded by characters played by Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, and Winona Ryder, the film builds a claustrophobic sense of paranoia. Conversations spiral into absurd tangents, reality bends without warning, and trust erodes into dust. What makes A Scanner Darkly so powerful is its balance between the surreal and the painfully real. The sci-fi elements exaggerate the horrors of surveillance culture and addiction, but at its heart, it's about people broken by forces larger than themselves. It's not flashy, it's not comforting, and it doesn't end with triumph. It ends with a whisper of humanity inside a collapsing world. The film was never going to be a blockbuster. It's too bleak, too experimental. But for those willing to engage, it stands as one of the most faithful translations of Philip K. Dick's paranoia-driven storytelling ever put to screen. It dares to say, reality might not be what you think, and sometimes you're too deep inside the maze to escape. They Live, 1988. It's got aliens. It's got sunglasses. It's got one of the longest fist fights in movie history. But They Live is more than a cult oddity. It's John Carpenter's sharpest sci-fi satire, hiding social commentary inside B-movie thrills. The setup is simple. A drifter named Nada, played by wrestler-turned-actor Roddy Piper, discovers a pair of sunglasses that reveal the world's ugly truth. Billboards, magazines, and TV broadcasts aren't just ads, they're commands from hidden alien overlords. Obey. Consume. Conform. With the glasses on, the world turns into a black and white nightmare of control, with aliens living undetected among us. At first glance, it's campy fun, and yes, the infamous back alley brawl between Piper and Keith David is hilariously over the top. But underneath the pulp, Carpenter is swinging at something bigger: consumerism, propaganda, and the way power hides in plain sight. In 1988, it was seen as too weird to be taken seriously. Today, its imagery has outlived its initial reception. Those Obey posters became cultural icons, endlessly referenced in art, fashion, and protest movements. Piper may not have been a traditional leading man, but his everyman toughness grounds the absurdity. Carpenter's stripped-down direction turns the message into a gut punch. You don't need spaceships blowing up cities when the real invasion is already in your living room, pumping through your television. Dismissed on release, They Live is now considered a masterpiece of subversive sci-fi. It's outrageous, it's clever, and it dares to laugh at the very system it's exposing. Plus, let's be real. Who doesn't want a pair of those sunglasses? Donnie Darko, 2001. A troubled teen, a giant rabbit, and a countdown to the end of the world, Donnie Darko is one of those films that defies explanation but demands discussion. Directed by Richard Kelly, this mix of teen drama, sci-fi, and surrealism follows Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie, a boy haunted by visions of Frank, a creepy figure in a rabbit costume who insists time is running out. The film blends suburban malaise with cosmic weirdness. Airplane engines fall from the sky. Wormhole theories collide with high school awkwardness. Characters wrestle with love, fear, and destiny, all while Frank looms in the background. It's both intimate and epic, managing to feel like a small-town story and an apocalyptic warning at the same time. What makes Donnie Darko unforgettable is how it never fully explains itself. Is Donnie losing his mind? Is time actually collapsing? Or is he trapped in a loop where sacrifice is the only escape? The ambiguity is the point. It forces you to wrestle with questions instead of handing out answers. Initially, the movie bombed. Released shortly after September 11th, its themes of disaster didn't sit well with audiences, but on DVD, it found a second life, becoming a midnight movie sensation and earning cult classic status. Jake Gyllenhaal's intense performance anchors the chaos, while the haunting soundtrack, songs like Mad World, cemented its place in pop culture. Donnie Darko is the kind of sci-fi film that sticks under your skin, demanding rewatch after rewatch. It may not give you clarity, but it gives you something better. The feeling that you've glimpsed a universe far bigger and stranger than you imagined. Silent Running, 1972. Long before CGI robots became lovable companions, there were Huey, Dewey, and Louie, the drones, in Silent Running. This melancholy eco-sci-fi tells the story of Freeman Lowell, a botanist played by Bruce Dern, tasked with preserving Earth's last forests aboard a spaceship orbiting Saturn. When orders come down to destroy the domes to make room for cargo, Lowell takes drastic action to protect the fragile remnants of life. It's a story of rebellion, but not the flashy, action-packed kind. Instead, it's quiet, mournful, and deeply emotional. The film wrestles with themes of environmental destruction and human responsibility long before those became common sci-fi talking points. And at the center is Lowell's relationship with his robot helpers. With minimal dialogue, the drones somehow convey warmth, loyalty, and heartbreak, becoming some of the most memorable non-human characters in sci-fi history. Director Douglas Trumbull, known for his special effects work on 2001: A Space Odyssey, infused Silent Running with both visual beauty and intimate scale. Saturn's rings, domed forests, and the haunting emptiness of space create a stark contrast to Lowell's desperation. Dern's performance carries the film, equal parts manic and tragic, capturing a man torn between duty and conscience. At release, the movie struggled against the shadow of bigger, flashier titles, but over the years, its influence has grown. You can see echoes of Silent Running in everything from Wall-E to modern environmental sci-fi. It's proof that sometimes the quietest films leave the loudest echoes. Silent Running doesn't scream for attention, it whispers. And in that whisper, it leaves a message that still feels urgent today. Strange Days, 1995. Cyberpunk, conspiracy, and the year 2000, Strange Days is the kind of film that feels more relevant now than it did at release. Directed by Kathryn Bigelow, this dark sci-fi thriller stars Ralph Fiennes as Lenny, a sleazy hustler dealing in illegal recordings of people's memories and experiences. Imagine slipping on a headset and reliving someone else's life in perfect detail. Sounds thrilling, right? Until those recordings expose something you were never meant to see. The film takes place in Los Angeles during a chaotic New Year's Eve countdown, with the city boiling over in crime, corruption, and unrest. The futuristic tech isn't just a gadget. It's a metaphor for obsession, addiction, and exploitation. Every playback blurs the line between reality and fantasy, truth and illusion. And when Lenny stumbles onto a recording tied to murder and conspiracy, the race to uncover the truth becomes explosive. At the time, audiences didn't know what to make of it. Too strange, too violent, too ahead of the curve. It bombed at the box office, but in hindsight, it looks visionary. Its take on surveillance culture, police corruption, and the dangers of immersive technology hit harder in today's world than it did in 1995. Bigelow directs with razor-sharp intensity, capturing the grime and energy of a city on edge. The performances, especially Angela Bassett's powerhouse role as bodyguard Mace, give the story heart and humanity. Strange Days isn't a comfortable movie. It's messy, provocative, and unrelenting, but it's also unforgettable. If you're looking for sci-fi that dares to shove a mirror in your face, this is it. The future doesn't look shiny here. It looks all too familiar. The Last Starfighter, 1984. In the golden age of arcades, The Last Starfighter dared to ask, what if beating a video game actually made you a hero? Alex Rogan is a teenager stuck in a dead-end trailer park when he masters a Starfighter arcade cabinet. Turns out it's no ordinary game, it's a secret test to recruit real pilots for an interstellar war. Suddenly, Alex is whisked away from small-town boredom into the cockpit of a starship. It sounds like pure fantasy, and that's exactly what makes it so charming. Director Nick Castle captures the feeling of wish fulfillment every gamer secretly dreamed about. One day, you're wasting quarters in an arcade. The next, you're humanity's last hope. It's the kind of premise that could have been cheesy, but instead it became a heartwarming cult classic. The film was also ahead of its time for its use of computer-generated imagery. While the effects may look dated today, they were groundbreaking in 1984, helping to pave the way for CGI in modern blockbusters. But beyond the tech, the movie works because of its sincerity. The characters are likable, the stakes feel high, and the sense of wonder is contagious. On release, it didn't come close to matching Star Wars or Star Trek, but it wasn't trying to. It carved out its own space with heart, humor, and optimism. For anyone who grew up dreaming that games could lead to adventure, The Last Starfighter still hits home. If you missed it, don't. It's not just underrated, it's the ultimate nerd fantasy come true. Enemy Mine 1985. At first glance, Enemy Mine looks like another 80s sci-fi war movie. Humans and aliens are locked in battle across the galaxy, but then it flips the script. When a human pilot, played by Dennis Quaid, crash lands on a hostile planet, he's forced to work with the enemy, a reptilian alien named Jereba Shigan, portrayed by Louis Gossett Jr. What begins as hatred slowly transforms into something deeper. The brilliance of Enemy Mine is its simplicity. Stripped of armies, spaceships, and endless battles, it becomes an intimate survival story about two beings who need each other to live. At first, the human-alien dynamic is pure hostility, with brawls and snarling distrust. But over time, necessity turns into respect, and respect turns into something like friendship. Director Wolfgang Petersen builds an atmosphere of harsh survival. The planet is unforgiving, filled with storms, predators, and endless danger. Against that backdrop, the emotional bond between Quaid and Gossett feels even stronger. And Gossett's performance under heavy prosthetics is extraordinary. He transforms what could have been a cliché alien role into a character full of dignity, depth, and heart. Audiences didn't flock to see it in 1985. Maybe they wanted more action. Maybe they weren't ready for a movie this heartfelt. But looking back, it stands as one of the best examples of sci-fi's ability to tell human stories in alien skin. Enemy Mine is about more than survival. It's about empathy, understanding, and the realization that enemies are often reflections of ourselves. Underrated? Absolutely. Essential? Without question. Moon 2009. Loneliness in space has never felt more haunting than in Moon. Directed by Duncan Jones, this quiet yet devastating film follows Sam Bell, played by Sam Rockwell, who's nearing the end of a 3-year stint mining resources on the lunar surface. His only companion? An AI robot voiced by Kevin Spacey. But as Sam prepares to go home, he discovers a secret that shatters everything he thought he knew about his mission and himself. The film is minimalist in scope, but massive in impact. The set design is stark, the atmosphere is suffocating, and Rockwell's performance is nothing short of brilliant. For most of the film, he's the only person on screen, yet he keeps you glued with every twitch of paranoia, every flicker of vulnerability. The story unfolds slowly, unraveling mysteries that raise ethical questions about corporate greed, identity, and what it means to be human. Unlike flashy space operas, Moon is all about quiet dread and emotional punch. It's less about alien invasions and more about inner battles. And while the twist may not be blockbuster-style shocking, it lingers, gnawing at you long after the credits. On release, critics praised it, but it didn't reach wide audiences. That's a crime, because Moon deserves to sit alongside the greats of modern sci-fi. It's proof that a modest budget, smart writing, and one phenomenal performance can rival the most expensive space spectacle. If you think you've seen every twist the genre has to offer, Moon will remind you. Sometimes, the smallest stories carry the heaviest weight. Primer, 2004. Time travel movies are usually flashy, not Primer. Made on a shoestring budget by engineer-turned-director Shane Carruth, this is the most grounded, mind-bending, and utterly brain-melting time travel film ever made. Two friends accidentally invent a machine that lets them travel back in time. At first, they use it for small gains, but soon they're lost in layers of loops, paradoxes, and versions of themselves they can no longer control. Forget clean explanations. Primer doesn't slow down to hold your hand, it throws you into a world of overlapping timelines, cryptic dialogue, and technical jargon. The result? You feel just as disoriented as the characters. Every decision branches into chaos, and the deeper they go, the more unstable everything becomes. What makes Primer brilliant is its authenticity. Carruth, a former engineer, approached time travel like a real problem to be solved. That realism makes the unraveling all the more terrifying. It's not just a fun what if. It's a meticulous breakdown of how badly things can go when humans tamper with forces they don't fully understand. The film costs just $7,000 to make, but it delivers ideas bigger than any blockbuster. It became an instant cult classic, inspiring endless fan diagrams, charts, and debates trying to untangle its tangled web of timelines. For casual viewers, it's confusing. For sci-fi fans, it's a masterpiece. Primer is the kind of movie that gets under your skin, forces you to think, and then dares you to watch it again. And again. And again. Underrated doesn't even cover it. It's one of the smartest pieces of science fiction ever put on screen. And there you have it. The sci-fi films that never got the love they deserved, but absolutely demand your attention. From Lonely Moons to Paranoid Suburbs, from video games to time machines, these underrated gems prove that great science fiction isn't always the loudest or flashiest. So which one blew your mind the most? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe for more deep dives, and remember, the future of sci-fi greatness might already be hiding in plain sight.